Hey Ishmael, how are you and your wife this evening? I have got to remember to put my reminders on for these things. One day I'll get better at it. One day. Miss Deborah, hello. Miss Kelly, hello. Karen, happy Monday, everybody. I hope you guys have all had a great weekend so far. Everyone's getting geared up for Thanksgiving, I'm sure, since we're like a week and a half away already. Hello, Alan. My 3 fur balls have been keeping me company. I have 3 fur balls too. Well, and plus a husband, so I guess that's 4. 4 fur balls. All right, so for anybody who is new, welcome. Decayed Mama Gnome on Wheels, hello friend, how are you? For anyone who does not know, if you're joining us for the first time, we are doing a book reading. Falcondance by Amelia Atwater Rhodes. This is the... Come on, green screen. This is the book. So this is the 3rd volume in a 5-book series. And so we're about halfway through this book. I mean, they're skinny books. Like you can see, they're really small. So this is a really... He blushed and said, hi, Miss Nikki. So does he watch my, like, Nikki content? If he knows me by Miss Nikki, he must know my Nikki content. But, so this is the 3rd book in a series of 5. And it's really light reading. If you're just looking for a really easy reading series, this is a great book series to get into. If you have missed the previous readings of any of the books that I've read so far, we've read quite a few at this point. You can actually find them on my my YouTube channel. So if you just go to my bio here on TikTok, you can see the link that'll take you to my YouTube page, and I've got everything in sequential order, so that way you just have to play through the playlist and catch up, or do a re-listen if you really liked one of the books that we were reading and you just want to listen to it again. You know, you've got that option. So someone gonna watch your reading on YouTube. Nice. Nice. Is he a reader? Does he like to read? So we typically give it till about 5 after for people to log on and get comfy and grab your favorite drink or change into your jammies real quick if you need to. And then we'll read for about an hour, because there's not much left, but I know we're definitely not gonna... We probably won't reach the whole end of the book this evening. We might get pretty close, but... So we'll read for about an hour today. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing! Yes, there's the hat and mustache. Can't go without that. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I really do appreciate it. Oh, a night helmet. That's new. I haven't had those yet. Thank you. Oh, so many gifts this evening. Thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. And I just put up a new video, a new Nikki video, like literally, I don't know, half an hour ago perhaps. It's my longest one yet. It's almost the full 10 minutes long, so... Oh girl, thank you for the lemonade. So it's a long video, so it's not like a quick watch video. It's an almost 10-minute long video. So just just be ready. If you don't have time for a 10-minute video, don't watch that one yet, but... Oh, you just watched it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that one took me forever to edit. I don't know why, it took me forever. So... So let's see, next week we will be doing the Monday book reading. And yeah, no, I think our book reading schedule will continue on for the next few weeks. If something comes up for like around Christmas time, I will let you know if the reading schedule needs to change, but for the next few weeks at least, it'll be a normal reading schedule, Mondays from 8 to 9 p.m. Oh, thank you for the perfume, Miss Holly. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. What time is it? 8:02. Still got a few minutes left, so. I feel like I need a bigger table. So is anyone having to travel for the holidays? I know I've got at least 2 Thanksgivings, so thankfully I don't have to go very far though, so I don't have to do any cross-country travel, but I know this is getting to be an exceptionally busy time of the year where people have to negotiate holidays and travel and time off and just... Ugh. Mr. Who, my cat? Mr. Who, my cat is good. He's actually downstairs. We got him a new piece of furniture not too long ago, a new sofa for him to lounge on, so he's been very much enjoying his new couch. Oh no, hon. Well, hopefully you'll at least maybe have some company for the holidays. Hopefully your health doesn't keep you away from people. I know that can be hard too. That can be tough. So. Alright, well it is about 5 after. And just as a real quick check, give me some thumbs up or some likes if you can hear me fine. I'm pretty sure you can, but just so everyone can hear me. Because I've got some background noise today, and I just want to make sure that it's not interfering if you can hear me well. Okay. Good. Thumbs ups. Sounds good. Excellent. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. For anyone who has the book, we are on page 101, and we are starting at chapter 12 for the evening. All right. The rest of the night passed blissfully, but we had barely stepped through the door of my rooms the next morning when Lily was pulled away. One of the pure diamond falcons who I had seen guarding the palace delivered the summons. "Your lady would like to speak to you." Lily looked surprised. "Is it time for Nisias's lesson already?" Now it was the messenger's turn to look surprised. "Your lady, the Empress Sharza, has requested your presence," he clarified. Lily's eyes widened. "I apologize. The Empress so rarely grants audiences I didn't imagine she would have reason to summon me. Nisias, I'm sorry. I must leave you for a while. Please be careful." She kissed my cheek and then changed shape without another word. "Is something wrong?" I asked the pure diamond falcon before he could leave too. "I do not know the circumstances of the command, sir," he answered, watching me with eerie focus. It took too many moments for me to realize that he was standing at attention, a guard before his monarch, awaiting either further commands or permission to leave. "Dismissed," I said, not at all comfortable with the turnabout. I had heard that word many times from Oliza, my commander, and the Tuolithea and Dient. I had never expected to speak it. "Thank you, sir." He changed shape, spreading black and white gerfalcon's wings to take himself back to the palace. Only after he was gone did I realize we had had an audience. Instead of greeting me, Sivka said, "Pure diamond falcons are bound magically to obey anyone of royal blood. That you have not decided to stay as Araceli's heir doesn't change that. Can I help you? I asked, still distracted. Sivka had shown no interest in me since I had arrived on Anmik, but now she obviously had something she wished to say. Your mother left some things here when she fled, she said briskly. Rightly, they're yours now, if you'll come with me. She turned without waiting for me to respond, and I hastened to follow. I thought she would lead me into the courtyard, but she passed by the white sands, and instead we went to one of the 3 Yenamarl. This is the Mercy's Tower, Sivka explained as she led the way up a spiral staircase formed of smoky glass. We passed by several doorways, each marked with a different pattern. And this was your mother's room. It has been locked since she disappeared. She touched the doorway, and the pattern shifted until the door clicked open and Sivka stepped back to allow me access. Thank you. She shook her head. If it was my choice, I would have had these things destroyed years ago. It was Sharza who favored Kel and Darien, Sharza who ignored their treason as if they were children and not guards of the royal house, and Sharza who commanded that your mother's possessions be passed to you. She snapped, help yourself, before turning and abandoning me with the remnants of my mother's old life. I pushed the door open the rest of the way. As they did in my room, the walls began to emit a soft light. In here, the marks were not just silver, but also violet. I wondered whether my mother had been the one to create them. Though most of the bedding had been stripped away long ago, a silky shawl had been left behind. I picked it up and realized that it must be a melos, one of the scarves given to the dancers as the highest praise for their work. It felt as light as air in my hands and shimmered with all the colors of the sky at sunset. In one of the corners, the artist who had woven it had left a note. Asorma la lo mehe, kahena itzi lagasini, lagen derian. I translated the word swiftly. To the sister of my soul, a more beautiful dancer there ever was. Yours, Darien. I put the melos down, wondering how my mother had known this woman well enough to merit such words. On the far wall stood a vanity made of pale birch wood. Its surface held a silver hand mirror, an assortment of hair clips, and a portrait, a ghostly image etched into a glass surface. At first I didn't think I knew either of the 2 women in the picture. They were both sitting on the edge of the cliffs, looking out at the ocean and laughing at something. Then I recognized my mother's violet eyes, in a falcon's face I had never known. The other woman, I realized with a start, was Darien. She seemed so happy and carefree in the portrait. I almost couldn't believe she was the same woman who haunted my dreams. Next to the portrait was a small box, with a hastily scrawled note beside it. I go to confront Sharza today. Please keep these for me. They should go to my daughter when she is old enough to understand. Darien. Underneath the box was a letter, unfinished and unsigned, but in Darien's handwriting. It was a letter to Hai's father, informing him that Darien carried his child, but most of what she had written was crossed out. A self-mocking scrawl at the bottom of the page read, "Why should I bother to tell him of a child who the lady will never let him know? A child the lady will never let study magic, but would rather sentence to Echo for the misfortune of having her father's blood." Darien had trusted my mother with these things, and with her daughter's future. My mother had kept them, as well as the melos and the portrait, and displayed them as cherished belongings. Darien had called to me many times, but I had never thought I had a reason to believe her words. Now I realized how close she had been to my mother, and it made me reevaluate everything Lily has told me. I used my mother's melos to carefully wrap up the box of Darien's belongings, along with their picture. I planned to take the scarf and portrait back to my mother when I went home, but the other things belonged to someone else, someone I had just decided I should go see. I splash water on my face. This time, I found the halls of Schmeckel without difficulty. Servos greeted me, but did not ask questions as I walked past him. Shortly, I began to hear Darien's voice again, a haunting sing-song. Foolish child, you tread in power and greed. Foolish child, you tread in blood and darkness. Nisias of Anmeek, Nisias Silvermead, destroyer of an empire, come to me. Though magic held them all, Darien was the only one of the Schmeckle who was physically bound. I could hear her chanting as I approached. Finally, the great prince deigns to speak to me, she said once I stood before her. He lets them mark his skin and use persuasion magics on him first, but finally he comes to me. How did you know my mother? I asked as I knelt before her. Will you remove this blindfold? She replied. You know that sight only hampers our magic. If I wished to harm you, a blindfold would only make it easier. I would just like to look at you as we speak. That made sense to me. I put my mother's belongings down between us and reached to pull the blindfold away. The cloth seemed to dissolve beneath my touch. It's falcon silk, woven by pure diamond, she explained as I stared at the remnants of the fine material. It can't be untied, removed, or cut, except by one of royal blood. She kept her eyes closed for a moment, as if bracing herself for light, and then slowly lifted her gaze, uncertainly. I felt a rush of familiarity. When I had fallen in the woods, the silver eyes that had looked upon me, the curious voice that had spoken my name, had surely been Darien's. Nisias, you wear your mother's blood so visibly on your face, even if she no longer does. How did you know my mother? I asked again, as Darien looked at the objects I had set between us. She smiled a little. Cal and I were ever rivals for the favor of our empress, and yet we were friends, closer than any among the Mercy had ever been. Her friendship was the brightness of the life I led. Mine was the brightness of hers, I believe. But then we found what we did, and I fought the Empress. Sharza does not acknowledge friendship or loyalty to any but herself. Kel would have been the one to give me the Empress's mercy. She fled on Meek rather than put me to death the way Sharza would have had it done, and I let Ekel take me, rather than give my Empress the satisfaction of hearing my screams, Darien said. What did Sharza do? You want to know? Darien asked, voice lilting. Will you believe me? You will not want to believe it. I did not want to believe it. And you have lived among the Serpient and the Avians, as I never did. I knew the Falcon's ancient feud with the Serpient, but Darien's anger spoke of something more tangible in our current lives. What horror could this woman know that would force her to turn on her Empress and would drive my mother from these lands? Tell me, please, I implored her. Darien nodded and then closed her eyes. When the followers of Anamirak left those of Anmeek in the days of the Dasi, they kept their Serpient magic. Sharza and Araceli, Falcon priestesses of Anmeek, worried that the Serpient, being more prolific than the Falcons and more active, would be a danger. So they took in a young human child and raised her, to be like themselves but different. They brought her to power and helped make her empire as strong as that of the Serpient, their natural enemies. Then they used their persuasion magics to convince one of the Serpient to stab this leader in the back. Her name, Darien said slowly, was Alice Dare, the first Avian. Her people retaliated swiftly. The Avians slew the 8 original serpents of Anamirak's clan, and the war that began between the Avians and the Serpient has continued ever since, generation to generation of blood and hatred. The royals of Anmeek will do the same again if your Wyvern's court grows too strong, Darien warned, because they know that if the slaughter stops and the 2 lands finally find true peace, the Serpient will regain their magic and be a threat. If your Wyvern Oliza comes to the throne, they will destroy her. But so suddenly, blame will never fall on their shoulders. So many generations more of cobra, python, boa, taipan, rat snake, mamba, and viper will be lost, and so many more generations of crow, raven, sparrow, and hawk will fall. Perhaps Araceli will find a new pawn, maybe the wolves. But the royal falcons will do it, and they leave me here, locked and bound and blinded, because they know I know. And they pray I will be truly lost to the void and never bear the truth to the light of day. I wanted to shout at her, to demand that she take it all back. I had not been alive during the war, but I had heard enough about its horrors. I had seen the hatred and fear that generations of fighting had left behind. Too many people, my age and older, were missing mothers, fathers, and siblings. I didn't want Darien to be telling the truth, but her story made too much sense to be ignored. No one knew how the ancient war had begun. No one except the Falcons. My mother was aware of this, I whispered. My ears were ringing and my voice seemed unnaturally loud. Once she was, Darien said, but no one in the avian court would have believed the truth even if she had tried to tell them. They would have not wanted to believe. Now, she shook her head. Years ago, Kell came back to Unmeek to plead with Araceli to let Sebastian, your father, go free. She bartered her magic, her mind, her knowledge. Araceli burned from her memory the worst and the best. Kell doesn't remember anything having to do with those days. She doesn't remember what we learned, or who she learned it with. She doesn't remember the torture she dealt, and she doesn't remember me. I winced, needing to look away, as if that could change anything. How did you learn all of this about the Falcons? Darien's gaze turned distant. My father's daughter was Serpiant. After he returned to his home, I used my magic to keep an eye on him. I saw him killed during an avian attack, and I reached out to save him. I think Sciarza might have let me, but Araceli pulled me back. She told me not to interfere, though I could feel the avian poison, unmistakably one of Araceli's creations, burning through his bloodstream as if it was my own. In fury, I turned on her, demanding to know why we had to let him die, when it was easily within our power to end the avian-serpient war entirely. She told me it was their choice, and not our place to interfere. She paused and looked away. I have never been as talented with Sakri as your mother was, but when Araceli lied to me that day, for a moment I could see the past as clearly as if it was marching before me, and I knew what she and Sciarza had done. The vision was so powerful that we all knew, everyone who was in that room. Some of us chose to forget or ignore. I couldn't, not with my child's father dead because of Araceli's ego. What Araceli had done to Darien was unforgivable, but I was more horrified by what she had done to the avians and the Serpient. Wyvern's court would forever be stained by their war, a war intentionally begun to cripple my world. For the first time in my life, I believed absolutely in evil, for there was no other word that could describe such an act. Confront Araceli, if you need to, Darien said. I see in your eyes that you are thinking of it. I can protect you from her persuasion magics. Desperately, I asked, how do I know you aren't using the same magics on me, making this sound more... Darien shook her head. Because then you would never have been able to question me. If you can consider both sides of an argument, no Falcon magic has been used on your mind. She admitted, I tried to use magic to bring you here, but others did their best to keep you from me. Araceli suggested that Lily come to the Schmeckel that first day because she realized that you were on your way, and she hoped that your friend's presence would distract you until her meeting with Sifka was through. And Araceli has done what she could to distract you every time you've seemed inclined to return here. But now, Nisias, I do not think I need magic to make you see the horror of what Unmeek's royal house began with the murder of the young Queen Alistair. I nodded, still not sure I fully trusted her, but shocked by her story just the same. My body was shaking, a fine tremble. I needed to compose myself, needed to confront Araceli. I stumbled down the hall, away from Darien, almost running. Nisias, are you all right? Servos caught my arm as I started to brush past him, and I looked at him without a thought of what to say. Darien is awake, I said, finally. Servos winced as he searched my gaze. She spoke to you directly? I nodded, wondering how much he knew. She is mad, Servos said. I was about to argue with him when he added, but she is also very sane. Have care with her, Nisias of Unmeek. She is an injured bear, just as likely to turn on the ones who try to help her as the ones who hurt her. And who is he to speak? Darien sighed in my mind. Servos, guardian to these still halls. He has been kind to me, true, but he worshipped Ekel in his youth. The only reason she does not take him is that he already loves her darkness. Go on, go to Araceli, Nisias. Soon is best. My steps through Anmeek were long and quick, yet at the same time they got me nowhere. It seemed that the 3 white towers that marked the courtyard of the Empress's palace were never in front of me, no matter how I turned. The roads fight you, Darien said. They fight you because they know you are going to challenge Araceli and Sciarza, and though they do not have lives per se, they protect the royal house, as the Mercy do. Luckily, you are of royal blood too. Araceli's chosen will not hasten to break you. As I tried to shake those dire words from my mind, I finally saw the path to the palace. I simply turned a bend in the road, and it was before me, as if the roads and the city had given up protecting me or Araceli. I pushed open the grand doors and found Lily standing at the base of the stairs, interrogating the falcon who had given her the Empress's summons. You lied to me. I gave you the message that the Lady Sifka gave to me. I do not know why the Empress would not see you, he said, defending himself. My lord, how can I help you? The other guard said, a little too loudly, as if to alert the others that I was present. Lilian, now the youngest yet most powerful of Araceli's mercy. Darien shuddered as Lily turned around, seeming startled by my presence. She, Kel, and I did always compete. I wondered just how old Lily was. She looked my age, but in a realm where most never aged after their 20th year, that meant nothing. Lily was 9 when Kel fled the island, and I fell to Ekel. Only 29 now, Darien informed me, too young to know what she does. I did not mean to speak aloud, but could not stop myself from asking, Did you know? Lily's eyes flashed from gray to violet. Did I know what? Her voice was fragile, her expression almost wounded. Why are you looking at me as if I've drawn a knife on you, Nisias? She stepped toward me. She might as well have, Darien snarled. Tell the two-faced little fowl that she deserved the knife I once managed to give her. Darien's fury toward this woman I cared for made me wince. Lily put a hand on my arm. Nisias, what's wrong? My stomach clenched with guilt. Darien's words were persuasive, but I had known Lily for... Nisias, get control of yourself, Darien commanded. She's put persuasion drawings on your skin. Of course you hesitate to... She's used more than magic on me, I responded. Nisias, did something happen while I was gone? Lily asked fearfully. Dear sky above, Nisias, what is it? Darien's shouting in my mind strengthened. So what if she does like you? You're an excellent catch. You are the only male child of the royal house. You are powerful and influential and beautiful. None of that matters because Araceli ordered her to seduce you, to make you want to stay on Anmeek and to keep you away from me. I tried to push Lily away, not sure whether to believe Darien, but shocked by the implications. Lily held my arm. Nisias, I've been speaking with Darien, I said, allowing her to take the words as she wished. Her eyes widened in fear. Oh, gods, no, she stepped closer. Tasa Anle, she whispered. Anle could mean many things, but in the form that Lily spoke, it meant all things evil. Nisias, she could kill you. Were you ordered to keep me away from her? Of course, she answered vehemently. Nisias, Darien is dangerous. She hates the royal house, of which you are a part. Araceli wanted to protect you. I recalled the words Lily had spoken 2 days before. I know I will never be first to you. You have sworn your loyalty to Eliza as much as I have sworn my loyalty to the White Lady. Did she also give you other orders? I demanded. Lily crumbled, stepping back from me. Do you think it was all an act? She whispered. Of course, Darien responded, though I tried to close my mind to her barbs. Why were you sent to Wyvern's court? Had the tale she told about her brother been true at all, or had she lied about that too? Lily drew a deep breath. I told you the truth about why I visited your lands. If Araceli had other intentions, I never knew them. That lying little fowl, Darian snapped. I may not be privy to Araceli's commands, but I know how her mind works. You were coming of age, Nisias. Of course Araceli would have sent someone who could be a suitable mate, if you proved worthy, or could put you down if you tried to tie yourself to a serpent or avian. I recoiled mentally from Darian and physically from Lily. I didn't know who to trust anymore. Darian hated Araceli, and I did not think she would hesitate to warp the truth to get me on her side. Lily was working for Araceli, and I had no idea how far that loyalty went. Araceli wanted me to stay on Anmeek. But why had she called Lily back before I had mentioned my fall in the woods to her? Araceli knew that your power had awakened. She felt it that day in the woods just as I did. What better way to make it easy for Lily to guide you here without anyone asking questions than to command she return? Araceli would not even have needed to tell Lily her intent. Even now, the suggestion seemed contrived. I wanted to believe Lily. I wanted to erase the hurt from her violet gaze. She put a hand on my arm, and I opened my mouth to apologize. Trust yourself, Darian snarled, fiercely enough to make me flinch. Trust what you know to be true, and never trust a falcon whose eyes flash violet, for it means she is using the strongest of her magic. Is it so hard to imagine what for? How many times had I lost my train of thought when Lily looked at me with such jewel-colored eyes? Ask one of the pure diamond if he can see drawings on your skin, Darian suggested. They cannot lie to you. I glanced at the two guards who had been standing in silent ready positions throughout our brief conversation. If they could see magic on me, did I really want to know? Your hesitation itself is due to magic. I turned to one of the pure diamond. Could you see if someone had used magic on me? The pain on Lily's face cut me inside. You don't trust me at all, do you? Of course You think I've been using magic on you, she said. You think, what? That Araceli ordered me to befriend you, sleep with you, fall in love with you? No, I protested, at the same time that Darian answered viciously, yes, of course, save the love part. The mercy isn't encouraged to love. It would be awkward if she was later ordered to skin you or some such. If Lily is foolish enough to actually care for you, she will regret it when Araceli calls her. What am I supposed to think, Lily said, when you start asking Pure Diamond to read for magic on your skin? Try this one. Darian pushed at me, and I found myself saying words she was inventing. I told you I spoke to Darian. I think she might have used magic on me. You might not be able to see it since she has a higher rank than you. How much did Darian tell you? Lily asked quietly. Her face held an odd lack of emotion. Those gray eyes were shuttered. About? Everything. I had to tread carefully. I think you know what she told me. Lillian nodded. Darian, Kell, Myrrh, and I found out together. And yet you still work for Araceli. Lily's eyes had returned to pale blue, and the expression in them was as cold as hail clouds. Did Darian tell you what her fighting won? How many innocents were destroyed by her treason before the Empress had the heart to sentence her favorite to death? Did she tell you that Kell had to leave behind a sister and a lover when she fled the city and put herself into exile? Did Darian tell you that a few years ago Lady Sharza took pity on her and drew her from the Schmeckel and offered pardon, and that Darian repaid the favor by trying to kill her? Did she tell you how many of the Mercy died or fell to Echo that day? My brother included, she insisted. That is what Darian's struggle got her, Nisias. So don't look at me with disgust for refusing to wage that war. Look at what it got you, Lillian, Darian sighed. Is it true? I asked her silently. In part, the Gerfalcon acknowledged. What she does not mention is that the Empress's pardon came with conditions. But that is history, and this is now. That is my life, and this is yours. What other orders did Araceli give you regarding me? I asked, as gently as I could. I needed to know. Had any of it been real? It doesn't matter now, does it? It's over, sir. She spat out the title, then turned on her heel and walked away from me. Guards, Araceli and Sciarza are both occupied. If you let him pass, it will be your hides. Lily's wings were trembling slightly, betraying the tension in her body. That morning, in ignorance, I had been happy. Part of me wanted to reach for her and push away the knowledge I had gained. It did matter now, more than it ever had. I called out as she ascended the stairs. Araceli ordered you to keep me from Darien. Lily hesitated for a moment. What will she do to you, knowing you failed? Her magic lashed back at me, making me stumble and strike the wall, every hair on my body standing on end. I am no longer your concern, my lord. You have made that much clear. She pushed open the silver double doors at the top of the stairs and shut them behind her so hard that I heard them ring. The pure diamond guards were watching me warily. Death to them if I forced myself past. Painful death, probably. I had hurt enough people that day. I did not need to give myself more nightmares by fighting these two. Then come back to me, Darien whispered in my mind. Let me teach you our magic, teach you what Araceli should be, could be, if she didn't fear Echo. You may actually get through the rest of this book today then, guys. We're on a roll. Chapter 13. I wanted to go home. I could not undo the evils of the past or forget the horrors I had learned. I could not undo the hours spent in Lily's arms or forget the ice-cold expression on her face. I could not forget, though I wished to. I did not want to be a royal falcon, a prince of this bitter island. I did not want their power. I wanted only to return to Wyvern's court. Araceli won't help you. Darien's voice in my mind was now gentler, almost apologetic. She was pained by the loss of one heir. If she was less obsessed with purity, she never would have given up Sebastian. But she refuses to see a man with a crow's face as her son. She will not part with another child. She never intended to. Everything felt like it was crashing down around me. How could I learn to control my magic under these circumstances? I had been raised to be loyal and honest, and I did not have the wiles necessary to manage the game Araceli had begun. I can teach you your magic, Darien promised. If you have the courage to ride the Echo, I can teach you. Darien was using me even as she offered to help me. Lillian had been manipulating me even as she had shared my bed. Araceli had been engineering my thoughts and actions from the moment I had stepped onto this island. And Sivka... Anyone who had seen my mother's belongings would have known that they would lead me to seek out Darien. Either Sivka or the Empress who commanded her had planned for me to visit the halls. Sivka has her own agenda, though I do not know what it is, Darien agreed. But if her plans force her to help you and help me, then we can use her as she uses us. Did anyone here ever work under pure motives, or was it all a facade, layers upon layers of deception? We are Anmik's chosen, and Anmik is god of control and power and the mind. These games are the way of our realm. Now come. You, I replied tiredly, want no less to use me than Araceli does. Certainly, Darien answered lightly, but that being so, can we not use each other too? You take what I teach you. I have faith that with knowledge you will do what I hope. If you do not, then perhaps it was not meant to be. I, however, will only manipulate you with the truth. Araceli has no such qualms. I will manipulate you with what is and what could be. Whether you choose to follow where I lead, or lead where I suggest, or fly another sky altogether, will ultimately be your own decision. Come to me. Now. Servos was not present as I entered the halls and immediately walked up the winding ramp to Darien. Without either of us speaking, I untied the bonds on her wrists and ankles. The knots that had held her for so long separated almost instantly at my touch, and Darien sighed. Once free, she stood, stretched and unfurled strong white and black gerfalcon wings. She let out a cry, half pain and half triumph. She stretched and flexed her magic as she had her body, and the sheer power made my breath catch before she finally turned her attention back to me. Nisias? Darian? I thought for a while that I would never be free of my bonds. Many times over many years I almost gave myself to Ekel in order to escape this imprisoned flesh. Then I felt you, when your magic woke, and remembered why I'd chosen this path. She stretched once more, arching her spine and reaching her hands above her head. You are Kel's child, she said, approvingly, but I think you may be stronger than she is. You can handle what I have to teach you. And what is that? I asked aloud, for seeing her standing perfectly still while I heard her voice so clearly was unnerving. Magic, she answered. Science, religion, whatever you call it. The void, the Ekel. I can teach you to ride it. And then? Ride the Ekel, and it can never rule you, Darian explained. If you go willingly, if you dance with its darkness, then you will keep your own mind, your anchor. That will be enough to keep your magic from devouring you. If you are brave enough to begin. She put her hands up as Araceli had the first day, then paused, allowing me to either mirror her or not. No more words were spoken. I hesitated, but not for long. I pressed the backs of my hands to hers. Now dive, she commanded. Once again, I was on the black ice with Darian, with the harsh wind ripping at our clothes and hair. The full moon was circled by rings of plum and cranberry, the only colors on the landscape. Ekelga, Darian said, naming the land. Illusion. Those the Empress calls Schmeckel are the ones who have fled from a world that holds too much, into a world where they can rest. Sometimes they do so intentionally. It only takes an instant, a single thought that perhaps nothingness would be easier. And sometimes they do so unintentionally, overwhelmed by their own magic until they forget where the real world is. They get caught by illusions, which are created by their minds to protect them from oblivion. Finally, even the illusions fade, and there is only Ekel. It is nothing, but it is beyond that. It is the absence even of emptiness. It is what is before existence, what is after annihilation. There is no desire to return, and even if one does find a mote of self-awareness, struggling is futile. The more you fight, the more painful the illusion becomes, until you sink back into oblivion because you cannot face what you have created. Darian smiled softly. Then, at a flick of her hand, the ice shattered. I tumbled into the cold water beneath, choking on it as I had in my nightmares, and struggled to remain afloat. The ice cut into my hands as I tried to grasp it. Fight and you will fall here, Darian snapped. Now dive. I can't. My heart pounded as if it was trying to escape my chest, but as much as I shared its desire to flee, there was nowhere I could go. Nisias of Unmeek, son of Kel of the Indigo Choir, and Sebastian of the Heir to the White Lady, Mindwalker, Nisias Silvermead, sworn wyvern of honor. You can drown here, or you can dive. Make your choice. Now. If I did not follow Darian, I would be trapped here, one of the unmoving Schmeckel forever. I let go of the ice, and then there was no ice. Just the water, sucking me down. Neither cold nor hot, it engulfed me instantly. I forced myself not to struggle to the top, and found myself sinking ever deeper. My need for air disappeared until I realized it had gone, and I panicked, afraid to draw the blackness into myself as breath, but afraid not to, just the same. Again I was thrashing against nothing. Calm yourself, child of Mehe. Fearing her darkness only drives you closer to her. I wasn't certain I could even call it a voice, let alone Darian's. Let yourself fall. See where the darkness takes you. I imagined for a moment that I was back at Wyvern's Court, at the end of a long day of drills, and then I brought my mind further back, to my days in the Dancer's Nest. I remembered the exercises the Serpient taught, designed to relax one's body and mind. A sigh seemed to brush against me, like silk in the darkness. Why do you walk here, stranger? A familiar, resigned voice inquired. Suddenly, In the distance again I saw the black castle. I was back on the ice, surrounded by dunes that began to ripple, smoothing and shifting so that no matter where I stepped, I could not move closer to the distant castle. You aren't wanted. Not by me, anyway. Stay here long enough and Echo will keep you. So why do you walk my kingdom? Abruptly, I stood before a scene held in ice like a frozen tableau. In it were the triple arches where the dancers performed. Above the arches, a black-winged dancer lifted her face to the moonlight and stretched her body as if weightless. Her hair was black, but held scarlet highlights. Her eyes were closed. I recognized Hai, Darian's half-serpient daughter. My thoughts of the serpent must have brought me to her, or her to me. There was no distance, no here, anyway. Is this your kingdom? I called. Or is it your prison? Can you leave? Why would I want to leave? Hai replied. I jumped back as the image before me shattered, shards of ice slicing my face and arms before they fell to the ground, where they turned into black and crimson feathers. I knelt to pick one up and found that it was broken and twisted, its edges seared. What are you waiting for? Me to invite you in for tea? Go away. You shine too brightly here. Ignoring the dismissal, I asked, What do you mean, I shine too brightly? You've... As if my question had distracted Hai from maintaining her defenses, the path to the castle appeared before me. I could see her again, standing at the top of one of the turrets, her body a gray silhouette against the white moon. My mother comes here sometimes, but I hardly see her. She is never really here. She is surrounded by nothing, and she is nothing. But you make all this seem fake, illusion. It is. Don't patronize me. Her voice reached me this time, not in my mind, but carried on the air. I know this is illusion. Sometimes, anyway. When nothing reminds me, when you and my mother don't barge in here and try to pull me out, I forget. But when you walk in, you shine, and then... The ice around me glittered with a million colors before it once again faded to black. All my world fades. Why do you stay here when you know it's fake? She turned from me. Why not? It isn't real. There was a pause, and for a minute I thought she had left, withdrawn into the palace, but finally she responded. When you are not here, I can forget that. Color, sound, touch, I forget it all. Horrified, I asked, And you're happy that way? Of course not, she answered, very matter-of-factly. But at least I am not in pain. I reached the castle only to find the drawbridge closed and the moat filled with serpents, all with their fangs bared as they moved through a vile liquid that stank of brimstone. Is the real world so awful? No pleasure might mean no pain, but I had never imagined pain bad enough to make me pay that price. There are beautiful things there. If you can't stand on meek, you would be welcome in Wyvern's court. The air laughed, an eerie giggling that came from nowhere and everywhere. Wyvern's court, yes, beautiful, doomed Wyvern's court. Leave now, Nisias, before I need to kill you to get rid of you. I think your death would stain this world, but so will your life if you linger long, so leave now. Hi, you speak of illusions, my prince, but you cannot recognize the truth. Go now, Nisias, leave me to my sleep, and I shall leave you to your waking dreams. She pushed me away, and again the world around me faded. I fell into Echo without any defenses, forgetting everything I was and had ever known. There was only the void I drifted through. Yet there wasn't, because there was no I, and the void can never be. Occasionally I became aware of something more, something mehey, beautiful and horrible. Echo rippled for a moment. And then I remembered pain. I screamed and remembered sound. I drew a breath and remembered taste and smell as I inhaled the dry air. I remembered sight as the light blinded me, and I pressed my hands to my eyes. Then a hand touched my shoulder, and I remembered comfort. Mehey, a voice spoke, and I remembered music. Still, I longed for the echo, wanted to reach out to it because I knew it was near, and inside it I would never know hurt. Nisias, stay with me. And hearing my name, I remembered I. I remembered my vows, every one I had ever made in my life. Darian's voice seemed very loud, even though I knew she spoke softly. The smooth floor on which I knelt felt coarse against my knees, and the air in the halls was suffocating. The halls. We were back in the halls of Schmeckel. Again I saw droplets of my own blood on the floor beneath me, too real after the void. My arms were striped with the black and scarlet magic I had come to associate with High. I didn't want to be here. I ran myself through the dancer's exercises. As I forced myself to relax, I found myself smoothing out the marks High had left on my skin. I realized I was doing it only when I saw the marks begin to fade, and I was so startled that I snapped my gaze up to Darian. She smiled tiredly. You have touched Eckel, and yet you have returned. If ever again you embrace her, you will be able to find your way back. Fear is what drives you into the darkness, beyond where any voice can reach. Relax your mind, and you will be drawn back toward this world like rain to the earth. Without your fear in the way, and with your royal blood to guide you, you will quickly learn how to use your magic with finesse. Simply put, your body in balance. Close your eyes and focus on the intent. If the spell is within your grasp, you will be able to see the pattern. Depending on the complexity, it may take you minutes to memorize, or centuries. Even if you never learn more than I have given you, it will be enough to keep you from drowning in the void. If what you have taught me is such an effective way to keep someone safe, I asked, then why doesn't everyone use it? Darian shook her head. And deprive the lady and her heir of so many years during which they can brainwash their subjects, she said bitterly. Truthfully, most falcons discover their power when they are still children, some before they are 4, and hardly any after their 9th year. But Nisias, you are nearly a grown man, and you have a lifetime of bonds holding you to this world, vows you've made and connections you've forged. Even more important, you are old enough to have a strong image of who you are. A child lacks all that. They would never have the strength to return from the void if they dove in as deeply as you and I have, she said sadly. So why do you sound so pained? She sighed. Mehe is pain, inasmuch as pain is a part of existence. There's more to it, I pressed. I, too, have bonds here, she said, her gaze distant. Vows I made in blood and magic which lock me to this world and will for all eternity. Particularly, they tie me to the Mercy. That is a group you leave only in madness or in death. My mother left. She left physically, Darian said, but it was not until Sharza stole her memories that she was truly free. It is a bit death, and a bit madness. What pains you now? When one of the Mercy feels pain, Darian said, all do. I knew who she meant before she said the name. Lillian. Of the elite silver choir, Mercy to Araceli, Darian whispered. I am sorry, but Araceli put you in my way to Nisias, and I could not spare you. Why is she being punished for my actions? I demanded. I may not like the job she was given, but she did it. She obeyed Araceli. She did everything she could. I am the one responsible. You only as much as I, Darian said. Neither of us holds as much blame as Araceli. She gave the orders. What is happening to her? No matter where the blame fell, I felt the guilt. If you want to see, reach into the now and look, Darian snapped. Sakriequa, that is within your power, Nisias Ra'oauna. Follow your own blood. Your father's mother is with her. It was easy. Too easy. I thought of doing it, and it was done. I stood, immaterial, helpless to act by Lily's side. There was no sound. Lily uttered no scream and gave no pleas for lenience. Instead, what seemed to grip her was sweeping despair at her failure. She knew she would survive this. To her, that more than anything else was agony. She had disappointed her Lady Araceli. How could she ever stand to face her again, knowing that she did not deserve Araceli's forgiveness, her infinite mercy? Beside me, I could feel Darian struggling with her own memories. her own feelings of guilt when she had first failed her Empress Sciarza. There had been no torture then, but I sensed that she might have preferred it. I tore myself away from the scene, almost back into the Echo, where there was no suffering or guilt or fury. Lily had betrayed me for a monarch who had repaid her loyalty with this horror. Darian's voice reached me just before I crossed into the void, commanding, "Never flee to it. Echo asks a price when you use it. You do not want to enter it to hide from pain, not if you want to return complete." This she knew from experience. "Always enter Echo willingly and without demands," Darian advised. "Then it will never hold you. If you seek to abandon your senses, you will lose your soul and self as well." I nodded mechanically and then turned when I heard a swiftly indrawn breath behind me. "Hello, Servos," Darian said. Servos nodded respectfully, as if it was perfectly natural for him to be greeted by a woman who had been previously bound and lost to the void. "Darian." He looked at me and said, "It has been 3 weeks since you first came here. We had given up hope that you would wake." 3 weeks? I gasped. I had thought hours. Maybe a day, but not weeks. "You spent much time in the Echo," Darian explained. "Araceli thinks you were lost," Servos said. How many people thought the same? After all I had experienced in this land, I finally understood why my parents had doubted I would return. Were they now convinced that they would never see me again? What about Eliza? She would not believe that I had abandoned her, would she? "Darian, would I survive off Unmeek if I left now?" She frowned. "Your magic would not kill you." I nodded, grateful. Darian, however, did not leave it at that. "Then you are going home now?" "If Araceli does not try to stop me." "Araceli does not visit these halls," Servos said. "If you can work illusions to hide yourself, you could leave, and no one would be the wiser." "Why wouldn't you tell them?" I asked. "I've been the guardian of these halls for too long," he answered. "I wish this madness on no one, and I wish Araceli's mercy on no one. If you stay here, likely you will suffer both." After a moment of contemplation, he added, "And I would hate to see the destruction of two who are so deft in managing Echo's swift currents. Manna Echo, masters of the void. The title is rarely given these days, with Sciarza and Araceli valuing mind-walkers and weavers of Sakri more highly, but both of you have earned it. Now, I will leave you two to your own futures." Darian nodded as he retreated. Then she demanded, "Nisias, knowing what you do, you're just going to run? I have no reason to stay." She looked appalled. "Return to Wyvern's Court, and you'll be just another bird, your talent and power wasted. You will not be able to use your magic lest Araceli sense it and drag you back here. You will never be able to take a mate, because Araceli will know if you have a child, and if it is half outsider, she will kill it. You could do so much here, be so much. You could be—" "Prince," I interrupted her. "I did not want that power when Araceli offered it to me, and I do not want it now." "But you could fight in ways that I never could," Darian argued. And still you will not even confront Araceli?" I met her gaze and asked bluntly, "Could we win if we fought her? You are Araceli's grandson. You are perhaps the only one who could challenge her, could show the world what she has done. And if we win, what would that reward be? Would we destroy Unmeek? What would our rebellion win us?" "Justice to the Falcons," Darian answered, "for creating a race designed to slaughter, for murdering any who could compete with them." "You're talking about vengeance," I argued, "not justice." She let out a frustrated screech that drew Servos back. Turning to him, she said, "You know what Araceli and Sciarza have done. How can you live with them?" "I am aware of their experiments," Servos admitted. "However, I am also aware of their motivations. You may want to ask Araceli about those someday." Darian laughed, a sharp and biting sound. "I was Sciarza's mercy, not the Empress herself. Those two answer only to themselves." "They would explain themselves to Nisias." It was my turn to argue. "I don't want their explanations. I won't fight them unless they try to harm Eliza, but I won't listen to any defense for what they did. Araceli has manipulated me too many times already." Sorvo sighed. "As you wish. Fly with grace and luck, Messiah Silvermead." He changed shape and departed. "You were raised among the warring too," Darian said, "and yet you aren't even going to challenge the woman who orchestrated their ancestors' deaths." "I am not willing to lose my life for my pride," I answered calmly. "Why should we sacrifice more lives to avenge the lives we lost before? If the Avians and the Serpent knew what she did, Wyvern's court is prepared to defend itself if Falcons try to interfere. If Araceli was not lying, then most of her people cannot even leave this island. If we take a stand here, we will lose. But if we take a stand only on our own land, and only if forced, then we have a chance." She frowned but did not argue. "I was raised a warrior," I said softly. "Any in my position would do the same. The Avians and Serpient just ended their war. They want to forget, not rehash old wounds. And the last thing they want is to start another battle." Darian paced anxiously. For the first time I noticed the clothing she wore, which had once been very elegant, but now held fine particles of dust. "I will stay here. Maybe I can't win the fight, but for me, this is home, even if it is a hated one. Araceli will demand that you be turned over to the Mercy the instant you leave these halls." "Araceli will demand it, yes," Darian replied without seeming to care. "But I am sworn to Sciarza, and so it is Sciarza who will decide upon my sentence. If I can remain calm this time, I believe I can convince her to pardon me." Softly she added, "If I can't, I will make sure that they kill me instead." "That is your choice," I said, chilled by the simple determination in Darian's voice, "though if you would not endanger my people, you would be welcome in Wyvern's court." Darian just scowled and started down the ramp. I hurried after her, wanting to say goodbye in a friendlier way before we parted. "I told you I would only offer you the truth," Darian said when I caught up to her. "You don't agree with me. At least you don't agree with Araceli. That was my first fear, that Kel's child would turn into a creature like—" She stopped abruptly, and all the color drained from her face. She took a trembling step forward and then fell to her knees in front of the battered young woman who had commanded all of her attention. "Hi." "My beautiful daughter," she whispered as she drew the girl into her arms, careful not to crush the magic-burned wings. "I never saw her dance. She was only an infant the last time I—" She shook her head. "Except for dreams in the void, I have never even seen my own daughter. I knew she was here, so vulnerable, but I could never—" "I spoke to her," I said, "in those moments in Echo. Somehow I spoke with Hai." Darian smiled, though it was obvious that her thoughts were far away. "Royal blood calls strongly to Eccles chosen, and you are not only a royal blood falcon, but sworn to the Cobriana. If anyone could reach my daughter, it does not surprise me that it would be you. Isn't there some way to save her?" "She has no reason to come back," Darian admitted after long, painful moments. "Her magic will always burn her because of her mixed blood, and this city and its inhabitants will always hate her because of it. She loved to dance and she loved to fly, but these injuries have stolen both those passions from her." She touched a gentle hand to her daughter's crushed black feathers. "I don't know what either of us could say that would give her any reason to return." There were tears in Darian's eyes when she finally looked at me, but behind them was a fragile hope. "I can help you return home, Nisias, without Araceli ever knowing that you are gone. Once I come back here, I will do all I can, and if I do win a place by the Empress's side again, I will be able to do so much, to veil you from Araceli's senses in the future. Otherwise, she will notice your absence, swiftly no matter how quietly you leave. All I ask is that you take my daughter to Wyvern's court with you. I don't think she will wake. There is too much pain here for her in this world, but maybe being among her father's people can help her more than I ever could." I nodded, though it chilled me to realize that Darian never would have offered her help if she had not desired this from me. What she didn't understand was that I would have agreed to take what she what she didn't understand, was that I would have agreed to take care of Hai without receiving anything in return. Darien was very much a product of this land. I will do what I can for her. All right. So we do have just a tiny little bit of reading for next time. So naturally next week will not be a full hour. But next week, we've got book number 3 down. And we'll be on to book number 4, which is Wolf Cry. And then Wyvern Hail. That's the final book. So, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope you all enjoyed the reading. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I know these last few weeks have been really hard. For anyone who's been paying attention to the outside world far and away right now. These books, doing these readings, it's a nice escape. It's a nice reprieve. But if you're gonna be out in the real world, you know, do what you can to give yourselves some mental breaks, some emotional breaks from time to time. If nothing else, stay hydrated. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.